have all of you to come out and witness this additional installment of It's Okay to Have Jesus and the Therapist. Of course, we have Gwen and Retecka. They're going to provide some services for us today. So we're just excited just again to talk about adolescence and social media, because we know how influential social media can be, and we want to have some tools to combat the things that our adolescents are going to be faced with. So we've done this before. You know that it's I'm assuming we're going to have a time for question and answers at the end. But up until then, we're going to have Retecka and Gwen come up and provide some information for us. So let's all participate, and I guess we'll have Retecka or Gwen's coming up first. Gwen? Okay, so Gwen come up first. Thank you.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about social media and adolescence. I wanted you guys to, because most of us have adolescents, and we wanted to be able to talk to you about what they were going to do, what it looks like, and how we can better help them as they travel down that road. So the order of events for today will be, I will do the introduction. Negative aspects of social media will be done by Retecka. I will do the positive aspects. Retecka will follow up with the conclusion, and then we'll have questions and answers. What is an adolescent? Well, that's the introduction. What is an adolescent? Somebody tell me what they think an adolescent is. Yes. Preteen. Anybody else?
Problem.
All right, so according to the World Health Organization, an adolescent is the phase between childhood and adulthood from 10 to 19. Adolescence is also a time in lifespan development that brings about dramatic changes, physical, intellectual, and emotional changes. What is social media?
Twitter, Facebook,
Twitter, Facebook,
Instagram, TikTok.
Snapchat, very good. All right, according to the dictionary, social media refers to a means of interaction among people in which they create, share, and or exchange information and ideas in virtual communities and networks. There are some of the ones that we mentioned. Here are some from around the world. We got Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, something called Wix and WeChat, TikTok, Facebook, Messenger, Durin, QQ. Like I said, these were worldwide, because I don't know what some of these are.
Right.
But that don't mean a whole lot to anybody, because I don't do a lot of social media. So, but Cashew, Snapchat, Telegram, Pinterest, Twitter, Reddit, and Quora. All right. These are some of the reasons why teenagers, according to 2018, this is some of the reasons why people, now can you see that slide? Can you read the writing? Well, the first one, back up. All right. The first one says to stay in touch with my friends. That's 40%. Second one is to find funny or entertaining content. It's 37%. To share photos or videos with others is 33%. To research, find products to buy is 30%. That's when I'm on there. To share my opinion, 29%. To meet new people is 27%. To network for work is 24%. To make sure I don't miss out on anything is 22%. And to share what I'm doing in my daily life is 20%. And finally, to follow celebrities is 19%. Those are the reasons why our adolescents are on social media. Social media use and screen time in general has risen sharply among teens and tweens, And teens saying that they spend most of the hour and a half daily on social media, according to a 2021 survey results from the Common Sense Media. An hour and a half, y'all. That's exactly. I think that's low.
Yes.
I think that's very low. So we gotta watch what our children are doing on social media. All right, so next we're gonna talk about the negative aspects of social media with Ms. Retecka.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Today's message, well, this morning's message was very, very, very good for me. And the word transparency is sticking with me regarding negative aspects of social media. My disclaimer is I'm very hypersensitive when it comes to the negative aspects. And the reason why is due to the job that I have. As a clinician, I have worked in a residential setting where they are coming from the community into a residential setting due to the negative aspects of social media. The other reason is I'm a parent, and the third reason is my current placement, I'm in a detention center, again, with the negative effects of social media. So my house is very interesting. So this is the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Murthy. And I have this warning on here. Let me see if I can get this video. Okay. Just listen to what he's saying.
It's coming.
Okay.
The Memphis Cup Bottle is recyclable just like paper.
Sorry for the next.
What's the right age for a child to start using social media? I worry that right now, if you look at the guidelines from the platforms, that age 13 is when kids are technically allowed to use social media. But there are two concerns I have about that. One is, I personally, based on the data I've seen, believe that 13 is too early. And I think that it's a time, early adolescence where kids are developing their identity, their sense of self. It's a time where it's really important for us to be thoughtful about what's going into how they think about their own self-worth and their relationships. And the skewed and often distorted environment of social media often does a disservice to many of those children. But the other concern I have is that these rules around age are inconsistently implemented. We have some of the best designers and product developers in the world who have designed these products to make sure people are maximizing the amount of time they spend on these platforms. And if we tell a child, use the force of your willpower to control how much time you're spending, you're pitting a child against the world's greatest product designers, and that's just not a fair fight. And so that's why I think our kids need help. And what we need, which we don't have right now, is we need transparency from social media companies as to the impact that their platforms are having on kids and which kids are being adversely affected. We also need safety standards, which we don't have in my house right now. The vast majority of products that that we buy, that I use, have to meet some sort of safety standard in order to be sold. That is not true in general of social media, and that is something we have to fix.
Interesting. If you have an adolescent, teen, preteen, and you can raise your hand. This is a no judgment zone, please. How many of you allow your kids to entertain social media? Okay. And doing so, was there a certain age you allow them to look at it? What do you think is a good age, if you allow them to?
I think it depends on the kid. I just really, for us parents as being the oldest,
Mm-hmm.
she's 15. She's
Right.
the only one that we allow on social media, and I felt like at the time I let her get on one platform, and I'm there to kind of follow and see what she's doing. Where's the other one at? I don't know what his age would be. Honestly, like I said, I don't think there is an age. I think it really does depend on the maturity of each individual child and what they are capable of handling.
Anybody want to add anything to what was just stated? I will say I agree with Aisha. I mean, you can't just say, okay, when you're 13 or when you're 14. Each child is different. Each child has something that contributes to who they are, and you know them as a parent, how it will affect them. What we're doing today is that we want you, in order to know, you have to help your kid, you have to know what's going on. So if you have all the information, you can make that decision. What makes social media negative? Any social media app being used as a platform to hurt or negatively target and or manipulate a person or persons. Social media is not being properly monitored by the legal guardian, which often leads to number one, to happen. Number three is social media allows us to be hardened into our kids through DMs, which is private chats, music, messages, images, and as the parent and or caregiver of your children, you are responsible for censoring what they are ingesting into their spirits. I'm reiterating, you are responsible for what's being ingested into their spirits. Please keep in mind that our adolescents are still developing, and their interpretation paired with the world's view begins a cycle of major effects on adolescent self-identity, self-worth, relationships, if they are left unmonitored and uneducated regarding the content they are receiving. How many people agree with that? Let me look at this clip and then we'll talk about.
Can't rub that one.
Okay, this one, well, I'll tell you about this one. This was an app on Facebook. It was regarding a young lady who was a teen, 14, high school, there we go to 15, I think. And what happened was she did die by suicide based on the fact of a message that was sent out on social media. She couldn't control what the response was, so her reaction was to take her life. That is a negative effect. This is common, this happens every day. Let me fast forward to my last job where I was a therapist, and let me explain the difference between outpatient therapy and a residential setting. Those residents or kids are placed there for a minimum of 6 months. They usually are coming from acute. Acute means they have attempted or seriously, they made the attempt to self-harm. And they cannot function in society without consistent being watched. And that means their therapy has to be very intense. I was rendering individual therapy to my clients twice a week and family therapy. And along with my supervisor, we would determine if you are at a point to go back into the community without hurting yourself. Let me tell you the negative parts of that. Secondhand trauma. For me, that means sometimes I'll get a call. Your kids are always in crisis because they're not able to control their emotions, their feelings, and manage not wanting to harm themselves based on whatever whether it was someone said something to them, they feel like the only answer was to take their lives. So I could get a call, it's like, hey, can you come to so-and-so, which was a dorm. And sometimes when I got there, it was blood on the floor, they found something to harm themselves. So it goes back to their self-worth, how they feel about themselves. So it had an effect not just on the other kids that are there, it had an effect on the staff that was there, it had an effect. However, in order to get them to a point where they are able to receive what you're saying is that they have to believe in who they are and what they believe. That only comes from your household, you as the parent. I'm gonna flip the script. I was a former PO as well. Sometimes the parents think that was my job. Like, I can't control that kid. Can you lock them up? No. You have to parent. Parenting is not easy. I did not make the parent the villain. Some of them just did not know. So you have to give them the tools to necessarily monitor their kid. The effects of negative social media are depression, cyberbullying, FOMO is fear of missing out, unrealistic expectations and humiliation and public shame, negative body image, low self-esteem, unhealthy sleeping patterns, general addiction, invasion of privacy, social media crimes, deceit, social interaction. Oh, we usually, now my husband get on me all the time, but I do use it for work, but I can do better. But they don't know how to have a conversation. Sometimes you have to say, put your phone down, let's talk. Broken relationships, low self-esteem. I did find in the facility that parent-child relationship was not good. Parent was usually working, single-parent homes. Some of them were two-parent homes. So there is a myth that if it's a single parent, it's just something bad. Some of them come from two-parent homes. I do have a question though. How many of you all see any of these on a daily basis? I know Ade is an administrator, so I'm sure he can see this. As a parent, do any of you all see any of this on a daily basis? How so, Greg?
I mean, I teach high school students, so I can tell when they come in that there's something not quite right. So definitely, and they usually would have just put their phone in their pocket or whatever. So there was an immediate connection with what their reaction versus what they just saw on their phone.
Right. It has an effect. It really does, and you can't tell by body language. If you find that social media is having a negative impact on your life, stop using it. That's easier said than done, but that's what we say. However, if you decide to stay, there are ways to waste less time on social media and thus maintain a healthy relationship with it. Now, I'm sure with Sister Gwen, I know for me, if a client is coming to see me in outpatient, usually my females, they are very self-conscious about their body image and how they look. This is just developmental. They're very concerned on how they look. Some of them think, I'm fat. If I don't look like this person over here, they purge, which is a negative side effect because they're worried about how they're looking, self-image. Some of them are concerned about the number of likes that they get on a picture. If they post something of themselves, then it's like, well, I didn't get that many likes, so I down. So my first question to the client is, you tell me what you think you should do. I have to step away for a minute. Yes, please do. And I have to enforce that with the parent. If it consumes you and it makes you come to this particular point, you cannot allow it to be a part of your daily routine. When they were being released from the facility, that was one of the number one rules that I had. Some of these kids were 19 years old, 17 years old. But for at least the first 6 months, because we're reintroducing you back to society, social media and cell phones are no. As a PO, when they're coming back from the Department of Juvenile Justice or being locked up, first parole rule, no social media, no phone. What? Either you do it or you don't, but you reap the consequences of what's been told to you. And this is the reason why we say this. The theory of cognitive development by Jean Piaget is the Swiss psychologist suggests that children intellectuals undergoes changes as they grow. Cognitive development in children is not related to acquiring knowledge. Children need to build and develop mental model of their surroundings of the world. This is basically saying that developmental, our kids are still growing. The way we interpret things as an adult, as Pastor said this morning, you can't tell a 2-year-old the same thing you tell a 12-year-old and expect them to interpret it the same. From 0 to 2, the coordination of senses is being developed. 2 to 7 is their thinking and use of proper and grammar. The concrete operational concepts attached to concrete situations. I mean, that's just pure thinking. That's not happening until they're 7 through 11. And then again, that doesn't mean because they're 7 to 11 it's happening, because sometimes it's not. Right. What if they're drug baby? Or trauma, some type of trauma happened. These things don't necessarily happen in this particular order. So when you're talking about developmental, it's very important. Formal operations, 11 plus. That means the theoretical, hypothetical, and counterfactual thinking, abstract logic, and reasoning. It says 11, but I have some 17-year-olds that are not even close to it. Erickson, who is another theorist, his thought or his process is that it has been a foundational concept in early childhood education for years. He emphasized that parents and educators are each integral in supporting and encouraging the success of a child has in their life in every psychological stage of development. It doesn't mean just 2, just 10, as an adult still, because your parent is always going to be your parent. And sometimes your life experiences can really help play into this. It says, by providing the support that is appropriate for the stage, it results in a positive learning experience. He also believed the older children's social emotional development goes hand in hand with the development of subsequent success of early childhood curriculum. And this is his model. And it tells you the different stages, starting at preschool. These are the different intuitive and guilt, industry versus inferiority, identity versus role confusion, which is where they don't really know who they are. They're figuring it out. And then we have outside forces that's contributing to it. Young adult, intimacy, isolation. Middle adult. I mean, we are going through all these stages in life. But the first one, at infancy, it starts with trust versus mistrust. Early childhood, autonomy versus shame and doubt. So you can see how, as we're growing, how what's being put into us or them as kids, how it manifests in different ways. Dangerous social media apps. Anybody heard of the first one? YouTube. Backpage, I was introduced to this by a detective as a PO. We had a training. And this training was on the precinct on Jefferson. And for those who don't know, this is a page that sex offenders use. And it tells kids, because they don't know, that they think that just because they're talking to somebody, that's who that person is. It's not. And actually Jefferson, I think where it is like the McDonald's and Roses all the way up, that is a high child pornography ring. Like, it can tell you. And this page is used. Wow. So it's very important that you know the acts. And if you don't know, look it up, figure out, ask questions on what acts, because there's some disguise. YouTube may not seem like, why would that be dangerous? But sometimes you can't control the content that pops up. And to the kids, this is one of the things, I did have a young lady. They don't understand that you're not only just putting yourself in danger, but you're putting your family in danger. I had one girl that was in the facility. She was on social media. She met somebody that was her friend. And some kids are, because of their social, they're not social. So they rather talk to somebody on a computer. What she didn't know, she became their friend. He started to threaten her. He started to threaten her family. And it became an issue of, she was in danger. police had to be involved. That did something to her mental because she's brought it on to someone. So you have to backtrack. So I want kids to know it's not that your parents are trying to be hard, they're just trying to protect. Some things you're not aware of, that's not your job. That's your parents' job. Instagram, Snapchat, same thing. If you look at social, well, I follow the news sometimes just for these particular reasons, especially in our schools. And some of our kids are just not smart. I mean, like they do a crime and they'll post what they did on social media, and that drove me right to where you are. I mean, they're not even thinking, but again, remember the developmental stages that I told you. Right. You cannot expect, well, they're a good person, or I don't know. You have to check and recheck what your kids are doing on social media. Kid, WhatsApp, Ask, some of these ones I don't know. I do like the fact that I'm back in detention because they tell me everything I need to know. They keep me on my toes. But these are some of the things that really do open the lines. And the app itself is maybe okay because it can probably be used for some good stuff. It's just you have to be cognizant of what can be done in a negative form. What does research say is concerning regarding social media?
Social media on adolescent brains is already showing fascinating results. The National Institutes of Health study is following more than 11,000 children over a decade. In early testing, researchers found significant differences in brain chemistry for kids who had at least 7 hours of screen time a day compared to kids who use screens less. Anderson Cooper spoke to the researchers for last night's 60 Minutes.
Until recently, it was impossible to see what happens inside a young brain when a person is focused on a mobile device. But now, scientists at the University of California, San Diego have hacked that problem.
How often do you have young people come in for the MRIs?
So as often as we possibly can.
Dr. Kara Baggett is an investigator on that $300 million NIH study. Her team is scanning teenagers' brains as they follow Instagram, the most popular social media app. When we met 18-year-old Roxy Shimp, she was about to participate in Dr. Baggett's study.
How much time do you actually spend on screens?
I check my phone pretty regularly, I'd say.
What's pretty regular?
Every at least 10 to 20 minutes.
Is that a conservative estimate?
Probably.
She can't take her phone into the MRI because of the powerful magnets in the machine. So a mirror has been placed above her face to allow her to look across the room at a movie screen displaying images from her Instagram account. This way, Dr. Baggett can see exactly which parts of the brain's reward system are most active while using social media.
So you can actually see a part of the brain light up when you're feeling good?
Yes, in the scanner.
In the scanner?
Yeah.
Based on her data and the results from other studies, Dr. Baggett is among scientists who believe screen time stimulates the release of the brain chemical dopamine, which has a pivotal role in cravings and desire.
So you're more likely to act impulsively and use social media compulsively instead of like checking yourself.
You want to keep on it to keep getting
the good feelings.
Psychologist and best-selling author Lisa DeMore is a CBS News contributor and is here with more on this. Lisa, good morning.
Good morning.
So we won't know the full results from this study for quite a while, but does anything concern you from what we see thus far?
Well, here's what we do know. We do know that social media is incredibly compelling. We know that it triggers the reward centers in the brain. And this is true for grown-ups too, not just teenagers and kids. So we know that. We also know that digital technology already disrupts things that are important for healthy development. So sleep, one-on-one interactions that are face-to-face, learning how to focus on one's schoolwork, physical activity. So we should already start to be drawing some lines around digital technology just to protect normal and healthy development.
And so much is about guidelines. We know that now now pediatricians recommend that children under the age of 2 not have any screen time. What are the guidelines for children through adolescence, though?
I think that the way we want to think about it is that there's no simple answer, right, that we wish there were. I recommend that we really make priorities about what are we trying to protect. So we're trying to protect sleep, we're trying to protect family time, we're trying to protect focus. So I think the guidelines should flow from there. Children need a lot more sleep than people appreciate. Elementary school children need 11 hours a night, middle schoolers need 10 hours a night, high schoolers need 9 hours a night. So if we even do that, that's one heck of a guideline.
And the thing is, it's not just total time, it's that we're creating a habit of distraction. So we're training our kids to keep interrupting themselves, which means they can't do anything hard because they seek that interruption.
That's right. Focus is a muscle that we build. And it doesn't matter if someone interrupts you or you interrupt yourself, it still disrupts your focus.
You have a new book coming out about anxiety and depression, specifically among young girls. How does social media contribute to that? Is there data that shows that it's causal?
We don't yet have causal data, but what we do have are some longitudinal studies that have actually looked at the trajectory through sleep, that when high schoolers get phones that disrupt their sleep, subsequently they go on to have higher rates of depression, higher rates of emotional fragility. So we don't yet have a certainty, but we are in that direction.
I mean, I hear this from parents all the time, suicide rates being up, they know someone that their kids go to school with, depression, anxiety. What's causing that?
I think we don't really know, and I think simple answers are appealing, but they're probably not accurate. We want to look at this in broad scope and think about a lot of factors that may be causing stress and anxiety to go up for our kids and making it important that we take steps to protect them from a lot of things. Social media may be one of them.
And since I've already read an early copy of the book, I know there's a lot of answers. When's it coming out?
Well,
it comes out February 12th.
And with teenage kids who sees those weather patterns and their moods change quickly, you know that social media is playing a little bit of a role.
I'll come back to that at our conclusion.
Can you use the mic, please?
Okay, we've heard about the negative aspects of social media. Let's talk about the positive aspects.
Are there any?
There are 8 of them, actually. According to a Pew Research, 31% of teens say that social media use is mostly positive. 24 has a mostly positive impact on their lives, while only 24% is mostly negative. The other 45% didn't have an opinion. They said it's either or. They just kind of didn't want to give an opinion. So social media use can certainly have positive effects, such as a sense of connectivity and belonging, personal contentment, self-esteem, emotional expression and control, and identity development. I'm going to give you 8 reasons why social media is positive. The first one is on building relationships and staying connected. Connectivity is among the most significant benefits of social media. It lets people know you can talk to people all over the world. I have family in Kenya, Africa. I know what they're doing over there because of social media. So it allows me to be connected to them. It allows me to be connected to my kids who are not here as well. So connectivity is one of the best things that this thing has to offer. But information could be spread globally through social media and its connectedness, making it simple for people to interact with one another. It results in global relationships. Finding your voice. What do you think finding your voice means?
A cause, something that is within you that you might be afraid to stand up and tell somebody about it, but you can literally type something on social media for others to read and whether it gives insight or provoke them to do something or whatever.
Exactly.
Provoke in a positive way, I mean.
It's learning to express yourself. And this allows children to help them find their voice. Social media, especially Twitter, allows many teenagers to find their place in the world. It gives them a chance to be heard. It allows them to be more aware of world issues, to be open about their struggles, and express their opinions. Social media has empowered adolescents and allows them to have a voice in the world. It gives them a chance. The next reason is showing kindness and empathy. Kindness and empathy is something that we all need. And if an adolescent is going through something on social media, the other adolescents chime in and they have the opportunity to be supportive of them. It says adolescents often share things online that are personal or that they're struggling with. That was weird. When they relate, they show empathy by supporting and encouraging others through messages and comments. Seeing others work through tough times can also be inspiring and help them see things in a new perspective, from a new perspective. Offering support, same thing basically. But they use social media to raise awareness about a cause that they believe in and support others who already do. They also offer and receive support for the work they're doing, whether it's starting a new business, sharing photography, writing poetry, whatever it is they do. After finding their voice, so adolescents use social media to help them bring awareness to what they found their voice to talk about. The next reason we're going to talk about is better communication, which is something we all could learn. That is one of the biggest things as a marriage and family therapist. That is one of the biggest things that I have found that people struggle with is communication. And social media can help with better communication. Social media is known for bringing up new topics. While many conversations or arguments may seem too controversial and divisive, they can bring up important themes to discuss with their parents. And that is one of the things that I really, you'll see on the paperwork that I gave you, as well as in the conclusion. One of the things, the most important thing that makes this a positive experience for adolescents is parents. You have to be involved. You have to know what they're doing. You have to know what's going on social media. If you are not a friend with your child, if you do not go through their phone, I know they say that that's invasive. However, if you're not going through their phone and looking to see what they're doing, then you need to get on it. Because they're doing things that you would never expect them to do. So, get on them, go through them, look at them, see what's happening, and know what they're doing on social media. Because like it says, there's some important stuff. They find their voice. They have things that they want to talk about. But if you're not involved, if you're not talking to them, then they don't know. You're missing out on a very important part of their learning. The sixth reason that we're going to talk about is learning and education. Everybody. Mostly everybody. I'm going to stick with my everybody. I'm going to stick with it. Has been on YouTube looking for something. To figure out how to do something. Shauna, wasn't that you that fixed your backlight?
Yeah, I replaced the whole tail light.
YouTube University.
Yes, ma'am.
So YouTube University, and if we remember the pandemic, which we all do, that's how the kids learned. It's through social media as well as Zoom and all the rest of that. So social media is a great place for students to find mentors and training programs to learn new skills and take steps toward future career goals. It's also a great place for businesses to advertise their services, software, and programs. On YouTube, you can find amazing tutorials to hone in your skills for free. The sky's the limit when it comes to online learning opportunities today. So if there's something that you and your kids are talking about and you want more information, YouTube University is a great place to learn. Number 7 is information updates. I have a goddaughter who decided she was gonna come off of social media. That was her thing. That's what she was giving up. She was gonna give up social media until she found out that's where she got her news, that's where she got her information. She was lost. So she called me and asked me, so what's going on in the world? Girl, if you don't stop, no ma'am. Go back on social media and get your information. So staying informed about events happening across the globe in other people's lives or in other people's lives using social media. In contrast to television, radio, or newspaper, social media lets everybody convey information accurately by presenting the real picture. It aids in showcasing real-world news across the globe. So you get to learn more instead of being stuck in your community. You learn more about what's going on globally, which makes our children more global instead of, because most people may not ever leave the state of Virginia.
Right.
But through social media, they can travel the world. So social media will help them do that. And finally, number 8 is mental health. I know I'm not an adolescent, however, this is what I use after spending the day talking to people. This is what I use to de-stress. It helps me to calm down. I look at it just for giggles and grins. I have people who send me funny videos, and it's just an interesting thing to do. So social media serves as an excellent stress reliever. Several groups can support people battling against stress, depression, and loneliness. By creating a feeling of elation, these communities can bestow a brighter attitude while also helping develop healthy relationships with others, thus enhancing mental health. So, conclusion of positive impacts. Pew Research, along with the National Opinion Research Center, came up with the leading reasons why teenagers in the U.S. feel that social media has mostly positive effects on people their own age. And it starts off with, I can figure out how to use Google. I won't worry about it. Connecting with friends and family. Now I'm going to get closer. To find some news info. God, I can't read these things. I should have done that. Yes. Keep reading.
Keep you entertained and vibrant.
Yes.
And self-expression.
Yes.
From others,
Getting support from others.
learning new things,
Learning new things.
and others.
And others. Oh, I love y'all. Because that one outdid me. Okay, so also overall, the positive impact of social media is astronomical, and it far surpasses the ills associated with sharing. But again, the way that happens in the adolescent's life is parents' involvement. I cannot stress that enough. If you don't know what your kids are doing on social media, you are not doing well as a parent, because you should never let them out there. As my sister said, there is too much evil out there on social media for them to be out there trying to do it by themselves. Okay? Now we have the conclusion by Ms. Retecka.
Keys to positive social media experiences. Research has found that parental monitoring is tied to less problematic behaviors like social media addiction or bullying others online. Restrict access to social media, for example, by setting curfews or time limits on social teens' media usage. A small 2018 study of college students found that limiting social media use to 30 minutes per day can boost well-being. Monitor social media behavior by following teens, social media accounts, and asking for access. Communicate openly about expectations around social media. For example, discuss the impact of cyberbullying and encourage teens to never say something online that wouldn't say in person. let me ask my teens, what's an example of something negative that can be done on social media, online?
People posting embarrassing photos.
Good one. Anybody else? Another example would be, even though you may not think of, when they call in bomb threats. Most teens don't even know that's a federal offense. We had one kid up in DJJ, how he got to call a phone, I would never know. But inside of the facility, he called in a bomb threat. And he was extended, he got federal time, 3 more years. To be educated about what you're doing will help a whole lot. That's where you as a parent comes in. Even when they call into a school or pull a fire alarm, that's a federal. These are negative things that your kids probably don't know. That's why it's important to encourage them. Encourage breaks, even for a short period of time. In 2022, a study found that taking a 1-week break from social media was enough to improve well-being and reduce depression and anxiety. Key factors to negative social media. Number 1, know what your child is watching and listening to on their computers, cell phones, or video systems. That includes music, not just pictures. I mean, that's just the world that we live in. And I know that, you hear it, I think on a game system, I think when they're playing, I mean, it just comes on. But you do need to be cognizant of what it is saying. We tell our kids, if you don't know what it means, don't say it. Although we cannot shield our kids from everything, be cognizant of what they are viewing and listening to be aware. I'm not saying put your kids in a bubble. That is not going to help them either. Can't. We are in the world, we are of the world, but they can be the light, they can be the salt. So they're going to have to set examples for them and teach them. If they don't know, you know your kid, you can tell them. Help them have those hard conversations, which is what number 3 is. Ask questions, have open dialogue on hard or uncomfortable topics, which are relevant to their day-to-day experiences, and educate them and be present. Again, that's the common theme. As my sister has said, as I'm saying, you have to be present. You have to check. And believe it or not, there are a lot of parents who don't. They just don't. In working with teens and their parents in a crisis mode, well over a year and a half in a residential setting, I can assure you that social media was certainly one of, if not the number 1 reason, the adolescent or adolescents incurred a traumatic experience. And the number 1 comment I hear from the parents during the family therapy session when determining how did the family get to the crisis mode is, I did not know. I also see the same trend in outpatient and in the juvenile detention setting in which I work. Adolescents follow trends, they often succumb to peer pressure, and they need to feel a part of realizing without realizing the ramifications of the choices they make. The quote that I will leave with you all, and I want it to resonate with you regarding keeping our kids safe and educating them is, to avoid is to know. To avoid is to know. You can't help them avoid if you don't know. So that means also you can't educate them if you don't educate yourselves. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know what it is. Find somebody who does. That's it. And I'm going to let my sister start with the questions and answers. Please ask.
Together. We're going to do this together. All right, so are there any questions? Yes, sir.
What would you recommend is a good way to get buy-in from the kids? Because typically they're going to push back against that and feel like it's being invasive. Any guidelines or recommendations there?
When you say recommendations in like going through their phones or?
No, so in other words, like, okay, talking to your kids about, hey, this is what we're trying to commit to doing, right? We're not really trying to, kids are gonna push back against that typically. They're gonna say, oh, this is not fair, you don't protect my privacy. So in terms of having that conversation and getting that buy-in from them, do you recommend sitting down and talking, or just saying this is what it's gonna be, and this is what we're gonna do?
From my perspective, this is what it's gonna be.
Okay.
Because again, I'm hypersensitive. If you don't set that, then you're gonna, this is my other comment. Pay now or pay later. If you pay later, it's with interest. It's okay if they're upset. It's okay. They'll get work to that. But again, you are charged, or we are charged as the parents to set the foundation.
And I'm gonna piggyback on that and say it's a combination of both. Talk to them first, let them know this is what, if you want to do this, just like you wouldn't give them the keys to the car without teaching them how to drive.
Right.
So talk to them, train them, educate them, let them know that this is the way that this is going to be in this house. Do that before they start. So that way they'll understand, oh, my parents are just weird like that. And it's okay to be weird like that. If that doesn't work, then you take it's my way or the highway. So you start off with the easy way, with trying to get their buy-in, talking to them, educating them. This is the reason why I do these things. It's not because I'm trying to invade your privacy. It's because I want to keep you safe. Anything else? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I've learned to pay attention to the mood swings of my students and my children. And social media quadruples those mood swings, especially if you're in the midst of going through puberty. But oftentimes mood swings, particularly with adolescents, is tied to their peer interactions. And when you add social media to that, it's all the time, all over the place. So it's important for parents to know the normal mood and patterns, so when there's a shift, that you're in tune with knowing why that shift is.
Yes, sir.
And being able to respond, and just being in tune and being prayerful, and speaking and communicating with children.
Yes. That goes back to what we've been saying. Know your children. Get to know them. Sit down and talk with them. Learn who they are so you'll pick up on these changes that happen in their lives. Because if you don't know them, like she said, all in the detention center, you would ask the question, what happened? What happened? How did we get here? I don't know. If you don't know your children, and I know a lot of us will say, well, my child will never.
Sure.
Then you start nevering.
And then they start nevering. And we're confused and we don't know what's going on. But get to know who they are, not who we think they are. Because we think we have perfect little angels. Because we're raising perfect little angels. They could not ever. Any other questions?
For the phone, oh, go ahead. Oh, for the phone checks, do you suggest going through it with them or without them? And do you suggest it be like a regular occurrence? Like, okay, well, not scheduled, because obviously if it's scheduled, they'll be like, oh, well, let me hurry up and delete all this stuff. But yeah, like sneak, like, all right, give me your phone. And then you sit there with them, or you go, off on your own and...
You sit there with them.
So that they can
because you want to be able to say, hey, what is this? Explain this to me.
Yeah.
Because it could be anomalous. There could be nothing wrong with it. Because we don't know everything that they do. We don't know, like I said, on some of those things that I showed you, I don't know half of them. But they do. So talk to them. Learn from them. Let them teach you. Because we could look at it and think that there's something horribly wrong, but it's not. So ask them, hey, what is this? I don't understand what this is. And if you don't get If they can't explain it to you properly, then they can't use it.
Right.
And it's,
I do unexpected ones.
oh yeah, unexpected.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I do know, but I will say, one thing, that I'm learning in rendering my services, some old school parenting is you don't ask why. You do it because I say it, and that's what it is.
Right.
I do feel this generation needs a why. It cuts back some of the pushback. I have no problem explaining why this is this, because again, that's part of educating. And why is also teaching them. They can ask why, as long as it's not disrespectful or rude. You know the difference.
Yeah.
But telling them the why really helps the relationship.
I think it's also important because they have their ears to the street. There's a lot of stuff that we don't get, they know. They're there. And I know when I was working with Hampton's gang unit years ago, we didn't even have social media, and it was a problem with gangs. So like now, social media really uses that as far as recruitment for gangs.
Right.
So just like they're intentional about recruiting your child, you have to be intentional about standing up and making sure you're not going to recruit my child.
Right, absolutely. Valid point.
Of course, I don't have a adolescent yet, but, you know, she comes home and, you know, oh yeah, my friends are on TikTok and my friends are this. And I'm like, they're 7 and 8, you know what I mean? Like, and it just boggles my mind, you know what I mean? And just trying to, because I mean, she's hearing some of these things and just trying to, you know, ward it off as much as I can. I mean, we try to talk about things or whatever, but like, I mean, of course she's not gonna have any kind of social media and everything like that. YouTube is even, you know, pretty much banned, you know, and even kids' YouTube is, yeah, that has a whole bunch of pop-ups and everything like that as well. But like, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like, you know, because I don't want her to feel like, you know, oh, I'm the only one who doesn't have this, or only, you know what I mean? But in another way, you know what I mean? I don't want, you know, she's not going to have some of those things that her friends do. So, you know, how do you address some of those things?
She's still young, but keep talking to her. And explain to her, yes, I understand that your friends are doing X, Y, and Z, but we can't do that. Because she's going to experience a lot of things that she can't do. Because we live in a Christian household. We can always use that. We live in a Christian household, and because of that, we can't do a lot of things that your friends do.
Yeah. I would also add that one of the first things when they're in a residential facility, and even if they're incarcerated, my first go-to is to break down any negative or distorted thinking that they have about themselves. You cannot ward off anything if you don't believe or love or like yourself. That's where you have to begin with your kid. So if John and Kim are over there doing TikTok, make sure you start off with, like we usually say, who you are and whose you are. That cuts the foundation and all the negativity right out the top. You're going to be automatically different. Doesn't mean that it's negative different. It just means that some things you just can't be a part of. So you have to begin building them up with positive reinforcement of who they are, their self-identity, and you don't need those extra things in order to move and operate. And I was thinking, we just had a conversation or a workshop. When I was growing up, I didn't have all this stuff like they do now. They have to ward against so many different things. But me and my friends talk about, like, you know, when you're in high school, Retecka, we are trying to go such and such and such, and you're the first one. Now I want to go to prayer. It didn't bother me. They laughed at me, but I'd be like, okay, you go your way, and I'm going my way. It wasn't an issue. Now, today, it is an issue. I don't want to be looked at like this. I don't want to be looked at like this. So my go-to is start with continued positive affirmation, who you are, who you serve, Those are the basic. And surround yourself. Positive people, places, and things. If it's not benefiting you in anything positive, separate immediately. Be like a transformer.
Any other questions? Okay.
Adolescents, y'all have no questions?
Yes, sir.
I do
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
question. We have grown adult children. They're out on their own, they're adults. And I know they're on social media all the time. So is there any way to help them minimize the time that they are on social media to avoid any issues? I haven't seen any issues at all with them, but
Well, actually, my son met his girlfriend on social media. They got engaged yesterday, and now they're getting married. So social media is actually a positive thing.
Yes.
And as old school, we have to be open-minded.
Yes. Yes. To answer your question, Sheila, I'm gonna quote my pastor. You can't train old folks. I didn't quote him exactly, but that's basically what he said. Grown folks.
can't do that.
Hard to change.
Yes, sir.
My oldest is 30, and I know she's on social media, but it's important to realize that, you get on social media for different reasons when you're older, but it also depends on the maturity of the person and the reasons that they get on there. Some people they just do it to keep connections. Like for me, I keep Facebook to keep connections with my family and with people I went to school with, and that's been the primary mode for it. So I'm thankful for that reason. But when you slip into a state of where you are emotionally compromised, or you are, it can be negative because you're looking at it for the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
You have people that connect with other people and they married, they shouldn't be, or they get addicted by looking at shopping things, or it just depends on where you are spiritually and emotionally, and that can compromise you. And then when we're now talking about teens who are still floating in that, where they're still learning and they're still trying to manage those areas, we as parents have to help guide them through that. But when you're grown, you have to be prayerful. You have to be connected with saints and other people who can encourage you in a manner that's going to help you grow and become more positive versus you slip into using it for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely. Very good. Yes, sir. Anything else? Adolescents, do you have anything you want to ask? Okay. If there are no more questions, this concludes our session for today. I thank you all for staying and coming out and being with us. So, thank you.
All right, let's give it for them one more time. Fantastic job. I think this is a very important topic for us to dig into and unpack. And I think as there are more conversation, more questions, let's keep those flowing. I think the biggest takeaway for me is just to have that standard, but also that communication. I know in our lives we have been trying to slow walk that with our kids, and they know, we're going to do phone checks. They might not think it's fair, but it is what it is. So, I think at the end of the day, we are trying to raise up a generation of people who know, like Shauna always says, who they are and whose they are. So with that, right, we just want to thank God for this opportunity. We want to keep covering our kids, keep providing the resources that we need to be successful in this particular aspect of our journey. So with that, I want to just thank everybody for coming out and hanging out with us this afternoon. We're going to go ahead and be dismissed. Let y'all get on with the rest of your afternoon. But thank you. We did have a couple of guests too. We want to acknowledge them. Sean and Retecka, introduce your guests real quick so they can just tell us their names. They told me, but I forgot. I'm so sorry. I know your sons though, Brooks and Dada. Yeah, I remember them. They've been to the church, so yeah. Tell who we brought.
I have Vaughn and Mari. We call her Mari. She got her munchkin is what she called him on her shirt. But if you come to Smithfield to a game, basketball, football, we deep. This is my crew right here.
All right, let's hear it up. Thank y'all so much for coming out for the session. We will be back together in, I guess, a couple months for another session, so be on the lookout for that. It is important. Mental health is very important. We are being intentional in that area of our process. So we're going to get ready to be dismissed. If everybody could just bow, we're going to pray and close out. Father, thank you so much for this information. Thank you for this time of fellowship. God, for just putting the gifts in the house. Lord God, through Retecka and May, Lord God, not May, and Gwen, and just give them, Lord, what they need, Father God, and what we need, Lord. The gifts are here. We just thank you for Gwen and Retecka, Lord, for just blessing them, Father, with this knowledge and experience, Lord. We ask, Lord God, that you will be with us as we leave. Keep us safe, Lord, through the rain outside. We love you and bless you in Jesus' name. Amen.